Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out X-Force Issue 1 by Geoffrey Thorne, Marcus To, and Eric Arciniga. From the ashes comes a new iteration of X-Force, led by Forge this time in the wake of the Krakoa Age ending, Beast getting a new lease on life over in the X-Men ongoing, and the mutants needing some type of stealth force. When we find Forge, he's not really in that good of a place, watching an old recording of the X-Men battling the Brood, eating junk food, and kinda sorta feeling sorry for himself and the woes of the world. You get the feeling that the weight of the world is literally on his shoulders, and it kind of is, as his robot soon alerts him to his special parts being ready, allowing Forge to finish his current work. So Thorne makes it pretty clear that Forge's new mission statement for his X-Force is to exist to affect the changes that the mutants need in the world, hence why he's called his new experiment Project McCoy. He doesn't want to take his powers away like Hank wanted to, he wants to amp them up and get a good look at some of the threats headed their way. And this is an awesome use of Forge's ability to both develop tech for specific situations that call for it, as well as his knack for sorcery, something that don't think a lot of people really realize that he has. It's never really come up all that much, especially in stuff like the animated series where it was there, but it was never really like a big part of his character, and I don't think a lot of people realize that he has this affinity for sorcery. So here Geoffrey Thorne combines the two in order to see some of the coming threats and allow the mutants to get to work on battling them, and he is shown 3 specific threats that need tending to right now. So with the knowledge of these threats, Forge gets to work assembling a team specifically designed to deal with each threat, beginning with Sage, the character who has actually been narrating most of this issue thus far, acting as like our little POV character, but also someone who's taking stock of what's actually going on and who's kind of involved, kind of running down the list sort of. To get Sage, Forge disguises himself as Dr. Silvercloud and gets access to a high security medical facility that Sage is currently a patient of, having been found kind of out of her mind after what happened with Krakoa. Forge is quick to realize that Sage believes what happened to the mutants is actually her fault, and she snaps out of it by revealing a small ball device he had created called the Analog, which represents the world and its fracturing, as it's like a little ball with all these little glass fractures all over it. So this is the kind of, I don't really want to call it a MacGuffin, but I'm just going to call it that for just better lack of a word, but this is the thing that's like the driving force behind this book, as this is the device that's going to be telling the mutants where they need to go, what they need to do, and it's kind of solved all the problems for them, and it just needs them to sort of enact it, more or less. And Forge is kind of left at the whim of this, and I think this is a really cool idea. There's this visual representation of the world healing, like with each new crack, sealed, it kind of heals the world a little bit, and it kind of reminds me of things like in video games when you have a good bad progress bar, or something like Mass Effect with the war assets and the effectiveness of it, that type of stuff. I really like when stuff does that sort of thing. There's like a visual representation that you can see that there's actual change happening. So this is a really neat little thing to include in your story, and I'm really intrigued to learn a little bit more about the Analog and where it came from, how Forge went about designing all of this sort of stuff. It's really intriguing stuff. Sage and Forge get on with their first mission, which is to head to a small town in Japan, where they find a city with no comm traffic and all 30,000 people are seemingly gone, effectively making it a ghost town. Luckily, Captain Britain and Rachel Summers are on hand to help out, and we get to see them recruited a few days prior before the mission, where Thorne explains a little bit more about the Analog, revealing that the device is what is coordinating Forge's missions, telling him where to go, all that sort of stuff. Betsy and Rachel's dynamic in the book here is really fantastic. I really like this little introduction to them where they're like a bickering couple, with Betsy being the English stiff upper lip person, royalty type. Rachel is a bit of a lazy slob and kind of, just kind of chill with everything. They complement each other very well, and it's Rachel who manages to convince Betsy to join, only on the condition that no Deadpool be on the team this time, something we'll actually get to a little later on in the book. Thanks to Rachel and Betsy's psychic telepathy powers, the team managed to find some psionic energy in the seemingly derelict town, and upon arriving in its presence, they find only blue slime covering the area. The team quickly find that a battle was waged there, and they are attacked by Noriko Ashida, the mutant known as Surge. Surge is a little bit of a favorite New Mutant character of mine. It's so cool that she's getting to be part of this team, and as well, with all of these new characters joining X-Force, it's kind of like the most diverse X-Force has ever been. We've got characters not just, of different genders and gender roles, but also from various countries around the world. It's not just focusing on one specific country, and even planes of existence are represented here, with Betsy being part of the team. And it's not just the usual Wolverine and Deadpool and like a character that might look very cool or use guns, the stuff that X-Force usually falls into. Surge explains some type of sludge attacked the town while she was visiting a family, and anything it touches, it absorbs. The blue sludge monster soon reveals itself and kills a bunch of people that were hiding along with Surge. Luckily, Forge's analog device accounted for the team needing some heavy hitters, and Tank joins the team. But he's not alone, as Deadpool has also tagged along, despite Betsy's protests. Now, right from the get-go, this kind of feels like, they've got to have that synergy. Deadpool movie doing $1 billion right now at the box office, so he's got to be in these books, especially an X-Force book. And I like that's where Geoffrey Thorne kind of subverts the expectation here, because Deadpool is actually used in a really cool way and is actually kind of important to the mission here for once. He's not just standing around doing quips. In a well-placed flashback, we learn that Forge recruited Tank and only hired Deadpool for this one job, which I think is a nice way of doing it. He can pop in and out every now and then, and he isn't, tied down to the X-Force name, and it doesn't become, the Deadpool show with some other mutants attached to it. As the team fight the monster, they find out they are migrating east of the city, and soon they find they are combining into a giant slime monster that can telepathically project waves of hunger into the world, signaling all it wants to do is just eat and consume everything it touches. The simplistic nature of the threat is quite refreshing as well. There's just a monster, it's just a monster they gotta fight. And there is a little bit more to the monster that kind of projects the overall stories forward a little bit, but it's a very small piece, and I like that it's just a simple big blue monster that wants to eat everything and the team have to fight it. It's not some complex concept like things from the future coming back in time to end mutantdom and bring AIs with it. None of that stuff. That was really cool in the Krakoa era, but I like that we're kind of moving away from that and just coming back to more classic X-Men stuff. While battling the big huge monster, Sage figures out that it's a byproduct of Essex Holding Corp, Mr. Sinister's company, as they were splicing mutant genes with alien biomass, and she determines that the monster is like a fungus that consumes whatever it can. So to naturally sate it, Forge enacts Maneuver L, having Tank fastball special Deadpool into the monster's maw, which corrects the fracture on the analog, and the team just get out of town as quick as possible as the monster turns to stone thanks to constantly feeding on Wade's cancer-riddled body, and it will do for 3 days before it starves to death. This was the kind of cool idea that I liked with Deadpool. He's not here just because of some sort of MCU movie synergy. He actually has an important role in the team, and that's to be eaten by a giant monster and kill it with his cancer, which is a really fun way of using his powers. He's a being who's effectively immortal. He'll constantly regenerate, so yeah, just throw him into a monster. I also kind of like that it's a little bit catty in its way of doing it. Things, it's like the writer just throwing him into the monster's maw and letting him being devoured, just kind of signaling it's like, this isn't going to be Deadpool's book. This is going to be a new character's book, which I'm very, very happy about. It also means he's fulfilled his work for hire status, so he's kind of out of the book now, and I imagine he'll come back every now and then when they need someone to, be immortal and, dodge bullets or something for them, effectively be an assassin for them or something. But I like that he's just not in the book anymore. He's just not going to be in the book anymore, which is great. The book does end with a teaser for the coming books, especially if you use that stupid QR code thing that Marvel is doing. You get like that extra page sort of thing, which is a really stupid idea. I don't think I've said anything about the QR code thing recently, but such a stupid idea. Just put the page in the back of the book. Don't make people, do extra legwork to read the full story, because people won't do that. But this page hints at someone working behind the scenes against Forge, implying that he is their machine, much like how the the analog is Forge's machine, so that's quite interesting. But I have no clue who it could be, but I'm excited to find out, and excited to find out more about what's next for the X-Force. Who are the new members going to be hired on for the next issue? For a first issue, X-Force issue 1 has a lot of moving parts, hence its extended page count. It's like 30 or 40 pages long. But Geoffrey Thorne and his team did a great job putting a new spin on the Mutants clandestine team. I love the idea of the analog and the team having a bit of a rotating cast each issue that is best suited for the specific threat the team faces in that issue. And then also having that core team of a fantastic mix of newer and older mutants with interesting powers, which so far has been used in very creative ways. I'm down to see what this X-Force team has in store for us in the future and what other crazy adventures that they're going to get into. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.